the only reason that white people in the United States or anywhere we are in Europe, in Africa, in Australia, in Israel, wherever we are the colonizers. We are the colonizers, and we live off the expense of the assault, Europe's assault on Africa, the kidnapping of African human beings, the trafficking, all of these things that we hear today. This is where it came from. Hundreds of years of assaulting and stealing everything that African people and Africa as a continent had and putting it into the hands of white people. And so this is why, as the chairman has said, the true class struggle, the true working class in the world is the African and colonized working class, not white people, because all white people, and you know this is true, you and I know this is true by just living our lives and seeing it. All white people sit on the pedestal on the backs of African and indigenous people. And, you know, the statistics are that even poor white people have an easier ability in a crisis to raise $3,000 in an emergency than middle-class African people do. Yeah. Because we live in social wealth. Yeah. We live with the wealth.
Wagwan family, welcome back to my YouTube space. Thank you so much for tuning in, because every time you show up, every time you listen, every time you watch and you share, you like these videos, you are taking part in liberation. So I thank you so much from the deepest part of my heart. There is a white woman here who has boldly come out and say some silent words that, you know, it is shocking, because white people cannot just come out and talk about this, but she decided, you know what, let me say it as it is. She's talking about the only reason why white people in the United States or anywhere in Europe, in Africa, in Australia, in Israel, wherever they are the colonizers. She has admitted they are the colonizer, and she has admitted that they are living at the expense of Europe assault, expense of colonization in Africa, kidnapping of African human beings. They are living the expense of trafficking. You know, all of these weird things we usually talk about, you know. And she has talked about this. So I'm going to play the video, and I'm going to play a number of videos of white people coming out and admitting this reality, okay? And then after we watch these videos, let's come here and try to talk about something. Now,
the only reason that white people in the United States or anywhere we are in Europe, in Africa, in Australia, in Israel, wherever we are the colonizers. We are the colonizers, and we live off the expense of the assault, Europe's assault on Africa, the kidnapping of African human beings, the trafficking, all of these things that we hear today. This is where it came from. Hundreds of years of assaulting and stealing everything that African people and Africa as a continent had and putting it into the hands of white people. And so this is why, as the chairman has said, the true class struggle, the true working class in the world is the African and colonized working class, not white people, because all white people, and you know this is true, you and I know this is true by just living our lives and seeing it. All white people sit on the pedestal on the backs of African and indigenous people. And, you know, the statistics are that even poor white people have an easier ability in a crisis to raise $3,000 in an emergency than middle-class African people do. Yeah. Because we live in social wealth. Yeah. We live with the wealth.
Europeans would do it again, and not even with regret, but gleefully, with that same crusty little colonial smirk they've never managed to wipe off. no matter how many times they rebrand their empires as the EU. If you gave them a musket, they'd start loading it before you finished your sentence. If you opened the hull of a slave ship and said hop in, they'd polish the chains, repaint the nameplate, and start rehearsing new hymns to justify it. They'd rename it the Enlightenment 2.0 and get Oxford professors to write 10-volume apologies for it before the first body hit the floor. They would absolutely do it again. Not just because they miss it, but because they never thought it was wrong. To them, it wasn't genocide. It was a voyage. It wasn't enslavement. It was cultural exchange. It wasn't rape. It was breeding civilization. They don't even pretend to feel bad unless someone's watching. And even then, the apology comes shrink-wrapped in museum tickets, fake tears, and a discount on British Airways. They daydream about it. Every time they post a picture in Ghana with that life-changing trip caption, they're not reflecting, they're scouting. Every time they say they brought roads, they mean they missed the chains. Their retirement fantasy isn't a beach, it's a plantation with Wi-Fi. They would do it again with better apps, with ring lights and crypto wallets. They'd recolonize the Congo with a Squarespace sponsorship and a podcast about elevating native voices. They'd rebrand slavery as a startup. It's not forced labor. It's a subscription-based human service platform. They would do it again in a heartbeat, wearing Patagonia and sipping ethically sourced genocide lattes. They'd sell you freedom with a promo code and a 14-day trial. They'd carpet bomb your culture and then sell you the rubble as aesthetic. And when you resist, when you dare raise your voice, they'll clutch their pearls, cry reverse racism, and call for civility. They would do it again. They never stopped. They're just waiting for you to let your guard down.
Pose the question, why do white people hate black people so much? I have been in situations where I've been surrounded by nothing but white people, and this conversation has come up. The race conversation has come up. And no one ever has an actual reason as to why they hate black people. There's always these, oh, black on black crime, oh, they're lazy, oh, they're this, but it's not actually, there's no legitimacy behind their reasoning. It's just that they've heard and they're regurgitating. And so, long story short, it really comes down to there is no reason. It's a deep-seated jealousy, a deep-seated hate that, you know, black people exude greatness. Black people are the great inventors. Black people are the beginning of the human race, the Eve gene. And white people have worked so hard to erase the history and erase the greatness of the black race. Down to even when things are invented, the majority of things that are invented were invented by a black person. But yet the white race has actually erased the original inventor from history and have put their names on things that they had no business putting their names on.
Oof. It's weird to be a race that acts inhumane but pushes the narrative on another race. This is one of the many insidious ways white supremacy culture shows up in those of us that are white-bodied individuals. And I say insidious because it's only subtle to us, but very plain to see for black and brown indigenous people of color. When we're convinced that we are and consider ourselves to be safe and benevolent white folks who don't see color, we are so dangerous. Because underneath all that and color blindness lies some very foundational beliefs about what it means to be a good person in this world. And what do you know? All those characteristics just so happen to look like what it means to be white. We have to recognize that we have been raised in and therefore conditioned to think in terms of a racial caste system. So as long as black and brown indigenous people of color are able to assimilate into whiteness, they're okay, and even heralded as exceptional people. But as soon as someone starts to question things or show that they're not grateful to be an American, we're like, what's the deal? I mean, I know things were bad, but can't we just move on? If you could just get with the program, you'd be accepted just fine. Sure enough, when people don't just get with the program and assimilate into white supremacy culture, they're labeled in all sorts of awful ways that are really just a projection of ourselves. And worst of all, their lives are constantly in danger. So until we do the work of dismantling white supremacy culture within us, no amount of being non will do.
Welcome back, my good family. It is not common to hear a white person, let alone white woman, just white person speaking this truth out of nowhere. Most of the time, we hear denial, we hear excuses, we hear it was a long time ago, we hear slavery is over, get over it, we hear colonization is history. So we don't hear such from white people. And whenever black people bring it up, the reality of what has been done to us, whenever we point out that Europe and America wealth is built on Africans' blood and on resources, we are silenced, okay? Or attacked. But here comes this lady. I thank her for saying all she has said. It is reality, and all those white people who are talking about or are opening their eyes and accepting, admitting what has been hidden for long. I thank you. I thank for saying it. But that does not mean that we black people, we needed that, because we knew that, because talking is another thing and actions another thing. Okay? And she accepted that we are the colonizers, that they have been living in the expense of assaulting Africa. This is shocking because it comes from inside the colonizer's house, okay? It is like the thief admitting in front of the whole village, yes, I stole from you. Yes, I'm living in comfort because I robbed you. Yes, my children eat because I took food from your table, from your farms, So that's why it's shocking. That's why it's shocking. Because once they admit, the question now becomes, what do they owe? What must they return? And what justice must be served? Because I said admitting is one thing. Aftermath is another thing. Okay? Now, let me get to history. The lady said they live at the expense of Europe assault on Africa and family. This is the foundation of the world we see today. Europe was not rich before Africa. Europe was not powerful before the transatlantic slave trade. And being clear, I'll say this. Before they touched Africa, Europe was struggling. Wars, poverty, plagues, backwardness. But at the moment they set foot on Africa's soil, they kidnapped our ancestors. By the moment they shipped millions into slavery, the story changed. And that blood, that labor, that free work is what built the economy of Europe and America. We have been talking about this for a number of days. Okay? Look at Britain, France, look at Portugal, look at Spain and Belgium, Netherlands. All of them became rich because of African sufferings. They looted gold from Ghana. They stole rubber from Congo. The people of Congo have been dying because some people have to get rich. They drained diamonds from South Africa. They stole people from Senegal, from Nigeria, from Angola, everywhere in Africa. And those people are our people. Those people were chained, were whipped and forced to build the cotton industry, the sugar industry, the railroads. You see? And the banks in America and Europe were built too by our people. And this is where the wealth came from. It did not fall from the sky. It did not come from hard work. It came from colonization, slavery, and exploitation. And that is exactly what this white lady is admitting. She said 100 of years of assaulting and stealing everything that African people had and putting it into the hands of white people, family. That is the history that Europe has been hiding. And it's the history of Europe in one sentence. Assault, stealing, looting, and putting it into white hands. So this is not just history or something that happened 100 of years ago and it has stopped. No, it hasn't stopped. The system of colonization never ended. It has evolved. And when slavery was declared illegal, they replaced it with colonial rule. When colonial rule was overthrown, they replaced it with neo-colonialism. In African countries were given flags, national anthem, and so-called independence. That was not independence, man. The resources, the money, the power, all of that remain in the hands of Europe and America. And even today, we live under the shadow of the same system. Nothing changed. Only they changed clothes. I will give you some examples. France still controls the currency of more than 14 African countries through the CFA franc. You had this madam called Post France, and by doing so, that means billions of dollars from African economies are sitting in French banks every single year. Congo, one of the richest countries in the world in terms of minerals like cobalt, diamond, is it cotton? Congo have cotton or coltan? Remains one of the poorest in terms of living standards. Why? Because those resources are stolen, those resources are exported, those resources are sold to build iPhones, to build electric cars, to build satellites, while Congolese people still living in poverty, still fighting each other, still unaliving themselves to keep some people rich. Nigeria is one of the largest African oil producer, but still suffers due to fuel shortages. Why? European companies are milking them. Companies like Shell, Total, they are making profits from oil from Nigeria. So it is still a pattern, still going on. And this is exactly what this white woman is admitting. She wasn't just talking about the past. She is exposing even the present, the comfort of white people they are living in, whether in suburbs or in America, the cities of Europe, or even, where the white people are enjoying. All those is built on African exploitation that continues on this very day. So when you hold a smartphone right now, when you hold a smartphone, when you fill a car with gas, when you wear diamonds, you are connected to the suffering of African people, and that is the uncomfortable that no one wants to hear. I'm happy because for once a white person has exploded, So think about it. A white worker in America may struggle, okay? But they are still benefiting from cheap African labor, African resources, and the legacy of stolen land. And that's why when it comes to living standard, I think living standard, poor white workers often side with their white elites instead of black people. Why? Because they know that their position in the world is built on black people oppression, and that's why this African working class, the farmers, the miners, the factory workers, the youth hustling in the streets, the women selling in the street, man, or in the market, we are the true working class. The lady has said that, and it is true. We are the true working class. We are the ones that who, if we unite, then we can truly bring this system down. Because without our labor, without our land, without our resources, the white world will collapse. That is the reality. My brothers and sisters in America, because when the white woman say that we are the colonizers, she's not just talking about Africa, she's talking about the United States too. Black people in America are colonized too. The ghettos, the police violence, the prison system, these are tools of colonization. America is a settler colony built on stolen land from native people and stolen labor from Africans, And just like Africa, the exploitation continues to this day. The prison industry is what I call modern slavery, okay? Mass incarceration means that black man and black woman are locked up, forced to work for pennies while corporation profits. The police are not here to protect you or to serve you, okay? The police are here to control and suppress a colonized population. And that's why every time black people rise up, from the civil rights movement to the Black Panthers, Black Lives Matters, the system responds with violence because America knows the truth, okay? If African people in America unite with African people worldwide, the entire foundation of the white world is threatened. And that is the connection. And that is why the statements of that white lady matters. It exposes what America tries so hard to hide. That the black struggle is not just about civil rights, it's about liberation from colonization, okay? Now, ask yourself, why is this white woman saying these things? Why is she admitting what most of white people refuse to acknowledge, okay? Personally, I think this is because the truth is becoming unbearable. The truth is becoming undeniable. The world is shifting. The power is shifting. African nations are rising, man. Youth in Africa are rejecting colonial... You can see. We are rejecting colonial puppets. In America, black youths are growing stronger. Black people are growing stronger. Across the diaspora, we are uniting. And even some white people can see that the lies are crumbling. They realize that no matter how much they will try to hide, no matter how much they try, history is catching up. And the cries of the oppressed are too loud. The evidence is too clear. And even their children are asking questions. But at the end of the day, I'll say, let's be careful. Not every white person who admits this truth does so out of love. Some do it to save face. Some do it because they know the system is cracking and they want to position themselves in a better place, right side, near, saying, I have a black friend, An admission is not the same as reparations. A confession is not the same as giving back what was stolen. Okay? Yes, it may be, or it is powerful that she said it. It validates what black people have been always knowing. But at the end of the day, the real question is, what will white people do about it? Will they return the stolen wealth? Will they dismantle the system of colonization? Or will they simply acknowledge it while continuing to benefit? That is the challenge, okay? And this means something to Pan-African unity, okay? Her statement confirms what Pan-African have been saying for centuries. And that is our struggle. It is our struggle as black people. It has been our struggle and we are struggling with it even right now. It is global, okay? It is global. That we have been saying our enemy is global. Our solution must be global too. Kwame Nkrumah back then told us that the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked with the total liberation of Africa. And Marcus Garvey told us that Africa for the Africans, at home and abroad. Malcolm X told us that you can't have capitalism without racism. Okay? And what are they all saying? They are saying this one thing. They are saying, or they are confirming what this white woman just admitted, that the white people or the white power is built on African exploitation, and the only way forward is African unity and liberations of African power. Okay? So this means that Africans in America, Africans in the Caribbean, Africans in Europe and all over the continent, we must see ourselves as one people. The colonizer does not see us difference between a black man in Kenya and a black man in Chicago or a black man in Grenada. He does not see us different. So why should we be divided? Why should we let borders, language and passports divide us? We must rise as one. We must recognize that the true working class, the true revolutionary force is us. And when we unite, no empire can stop us. Not America, not Europe, not NATO, not IMF. Nobody can stop us. None of them is able or capable enough to stop the unity of black people across the world. We need to rise. We need to rise. Okay? We need to seek knowledge. We need to teach our children. When this lady has come out and say what she has said, it's not a matter of coming out and start clapping and saying finally white people are admitting it. No. We have to use this as fuel. We use it as proof. We use it as another tool to wake up those who are still sleeping. We tell our brothers and sisters, look, even themselves, they are saying it. We have to reject the lies told in white schools and media. We have to build bridges between Africans and the continent, Africans on the continent and Africans abroad in diaspora. We have to defend our youths from lies that tell them they are less. We have to prepare ourselves spiritually, mentally, economically, and politically, because liberation is coming. Until next episode, peace out.